Milk bled through the front of her dress before she could hide it, a warm stain spreading fast. The baby fussed, fists beating air, while men at the hitch rail pretended not to see, and saw. May turned her back, the cottonwood shadow cracking her face. She pulled Junie to her chest. The latch took. Heat and noise fell away until there was only the tiny swallow, the soft suck, the steadiness of a life refusing to apologize. "Ma'am." A man at the pump didn't turn as he spoke. "You want I should face the other way?" "Do as you please," she said, not trusting thanks. He filled his canteen without glancing. Broad shoulders, hat pushed back, a day's beard softening a hard mouth. His hands were nicked, rope familiar. He stood like the ground trusted him. The pump chain squealed. A dog barked once and decided it had done enough. Junie coughed. Milk dribbled. May dabbed with her shawl. The man capped his canteen and only then nodded. "Town's worse in heat," he said. "Boiled people say mean things. They say the same in winter." "True." He half smiled. "Eli Caro, nails and salt," he added, as if explaining why he existed. May didn't hand her name easily. Names invited weighing. She raised her chin. "May, May," he repeated like testing a post for soundness. He tipped his hat and walked on. Piano clanged from the saloon. The blacksmith's hammer took up a new song. Whispers threaded the street anyway. A woman hissed, "Improper." A boy laughed at nothing. When Junie drifted to milk sleep, May set her blouse, tightened her shawl, and found Eli still nearby, standing like shade. "If you're walking out," he said, "I'll take this side. Folks stare less with something in their way." "I don't need—" Pride bit down. She swallowed it. "Fine." They walked. He didn't talk, only took the windy side and the dust. A wagon wheel shrieked. A team shook their harness bells and made their own weather. At the livery he paused by her boxy cart. "Wheels cracked," he said, squatting. His thumb opened the split like a mouth. "You'll make it to the Willows if you bless it every 10 yards. Junie stirred. May lifted the basket, wrists aching with care. "I'll go careful." "There's careful, and there's luck." He straightened. "I've a spare wheel, won't cost you. You can bring a pie if it sets your heart even. I don't owe you." "You don't," he said simply. "But it keeps your baby's head from bouncing apart." She nodded once. "Fine." He worked fast, hands practiced. The smell of lard and hay and old leather rose around them. Flies scribbled in the heat. Swallows stitched shadows to rafters. May watched from the shade, breathing easier without knowing why. Town eyes drifted off. When he finished, he dusted his palms. "Good for a month unless you try to fly." "What do I owe?" she asked again, softer. "Pie or a story about the river?" He grinned and lost it. Never could tell willows apart. "They're trees." "So I hear." He took one handle of the cart and didn't take the other. "You from around?" "Half a mile beyond the willows. North Fork for me. Caro Place." He kept his hands where she could read them. Open. "I was married," he said quietly. She passed. May nodded. "I was never. Junie's father is not here." "All right," he said, like a man nodding to a storm he couldn't move. They took the road that tilted toward River Talk. Cotton drifted on heat. Grasshoppers clicked and threw themselves. Dust rose and lay down again like a tired animal. Eli let the quiet be. He carried one handle, letting her keep the other, as if balance were part of the agreement. The cart's new wheel hummed true. At the Willows, he said, "I turned away at the pump." "Most don't. Most never learned how holy a baby swallow sounds," he said. "Mine lasted a day. She took my wife with her." May stopped. The cart stilled. Wind combed the leaves. "I'm sorry," she said, and felt how small and necessary the words were. "All right," he answered, touching his hat. "If you hear hammering this week, it's me at the north fence. If you need a thing moved, wave a cloth." He turned. That's when horses showed on the upper trail, 3 of them, dust boiling, a deputy's star flashing like a fish scale. Eli's head lifted. May's palm slicked on the cart. The leader smiled with a draw-knife mouth. Junie stirred. She had no more running in her. She set her feet in sand and pulled the shawl tight. They came down careful, letting hooves eat the slope. "Afternoon," the leader sang. Miss May?" His vest shone like crow feathers. His eyes were a kind of mirror. The deputy's star blinked, then dulled under willow shade. A third man rolled a toothpick side to side, as if choosing which side of himself to spit from. "Long way from town, Silas," May said, steady enough to surprise herself. "Business brings a man," Silas answered. His glance slid to Junie. "You didn't answer the letter. You didn't earn one." The deputy fished out a paper with a broken seal. "Judge wants you in 10 days, he said. "Custody, support, all regular." Eli didn't blink. "Paper doesn't say you take the baby now." He stood as if the bank had decided to wear boots. Silas pinched a smile. "You a lawyer, fence mender?" "Just reading." May folded the paper. She wanted to burn it, boat it, eat it, but slid it into the basket. "Tell the judge I'll come," she said. "Get off my bank." Silas's gaze traveled the route folks like to take, lingering where it hurt. "You always had a tongue," he said. "Shame what it's attached to." Eli moved closer to May's shadow. "You said what you came to say." Silas's smile dried. "We'll meet in town." He turned his horse. Dust took them. The deputy followed slower, a man dragging a thought. Eli watched the water a while. "You want a bench by the river?" he asked at last. "Somewhere the bank holds. I'll set a screen, keep the world from what isn't its business." "Why?" she asked, meaning more than boards. "You carry enough," he said. "I've got wood." The river said yes for her. She nodded because sometimes a nod is a prayer. He stepped back onto the trail. The day sagged and cooled. Somewhere a meadowlark tried all the notes it knew and found one it didn't. May carried Junie inside, laid her on a quilt, and stood a moment with her palm on the baby's chest, counting tiny breaths. She touched the paper under the jar on the shelf. She poured water, drank, and tasted iron and willow shade. Tomorrow would need strength. Tonight had given a piece of it back. Morning slid its first light through the screen. She was up feeding Junie when the hammering began at the north fence. Slow, sure, a rhythm honest as a heartbeat. She didn't know it yet, but each strike would pin the day into place and keep it from blowing away. The next days were small and exacting as stitches. Eli came with a wagon and tools. May came with coffee in a dented tin and a loaf that understood hunger. He measured, squinted, set posts. She held boards with bare feet in cool mud. Junie slept on a quilt under leaves and woke to watch light turn her fingers into little lanterns. Eli planed the bench smooth so it wouldn't bite. He raised a willow screen that let light through but not eyes. He worked with his shirt off in noon heat, skin the color of work, a scar mapping one rib. She pretended not to notice and noticed, then chose not to be ashamed for noticing. They talked like people testing water with their ankles. He named birds, yellow warbler, kingfisher, poorwill, and told how each had once kept him from freezing by telling him where water hid beneath snow. She named river moods, glass, wrinkled tin, storm milk, and told how each foretold a day. He said wood remembered every strike you put to it. She said water didn't forget either. It just carried it better. Trust didn't rush. It walked. May let Eli take the cart alone when the road went steep. Eli left bacon on the fence post twice, and a sack of beans once with a note that said nothing but her name. At dusk, she let him walk to the door and stand while she set the latch. And when wind banged shutters, she opened it again and said thank you twice, the second one catching. On the 7th day, he brought a tiny carved bird. He turned it in his big fingers, shy. "For Junie," he said. "My hands don't know small." Junie tried to eat it. May laughed once and hushed it quick, surprised by the sound. "It's perfect." Her gaze fell to his hands, nicked, careful. "You miss them," she added, meaning his wife and the day-long daughter. "Every minute," he said, looking at the willow screen, "but missing is a rope. You can be dragged by it or tie a thing down. I'm trying for the second." The house smelled like fried corn, clean laundry, and a ghost of milk. The old story pushed at May's lips, the one she hadn't told, because telling made it too real. Now real felt like the only honest thing to be. She set the bird beside Junie and began. "Silas came calling with a preacher and a bottle," she said. "He said he admired a woman who wouldn't blow away in a wind. He meant the part of me folks mock, When my belly showed, he vanished. Played cards with cradle money, lost. When Junie came and my milk with her, I fed on the porch because hunger doesn't keep the clock. Women called me shameless, men said worse. His letter offered help if I'd send my baby to be raised proper. Eli's mouth made a straight board. Proper, he said like a splinter he'd just found. I fed the letter to the stove, May said. Didn't think he'd wave a seal, she swallowed. I don't want a court to weigh me. I'll sit with you, Eli said. I'll tell what I saw. A mother feeding her child while men starved for smallness. A river holding more decency than the street. May closed her eyes. I am not small, she said, the old knife turning. No, he said, you're sufficient. He placed the word between them, a warm stone to hold. It loosened something welded in her. Tears came clean. Eli didn't touch her. He stood like a door that wouldn't fly open. I'm frightened, she said. Me too, he said. I've a wagon. Back trail at dawn. She wanted to set her forehead against his chest and rest. Instead, she lifted Junie higher and said, Come before dawn. Before it, he promised. Dawn found the wagon breathing at the pasture's edge. They braided through cottonwoods and across a dry creek. Clouds were low-bellied with weather, bellies touching hills. Quail skittered. A coyote watched and then remembered he had dignity and left. That afternoon, a storm rehearsed and changed its mind. The air tasted metallic. Eli checked the roofline. May brought in wash. Junie found thunder funny. They sat on the step and spoke of small, true things. His father's way of tapping posts to find rot, her mother's trick of cooling milk in a bucket sunk at the bank. Eli said he envied how water held sky without ever pretending to be it. May said she envied wood its willingness to be made new, with a plane and patience. Junie slept across May's chest, warm as bread. Eli watched the rise and fall and pressed his fist once to his mouth to keep a sound in. The day before court, May walked to town for flour. She fed Junie by the trough out front of the mercantile, shawl half open because the heat said so. A pair of men paused to stare. Eli, who'd come for nails, stepped into their sightline as if deciding to admire horses. The men discovered other interests. May finished the feed without apology. Eli did not look down. He looked at the horizon like it was worth seeing. In the alley behind the store, a girl of 13 offered May a dipper of water and said her ma nursed all 6 right in the kitchen, door open to summer. The girl shrugged like it was weather, then ran before her courage could catch up to her. May sipped and let that small kindness widen the day. That night the wind shifted north and brought the smell of rain and sage. Eli knocked once and stood back, hat in both hands. I thought you might want company, not talk, he said. He sat on the step while May rocked Junie inside. Through the screen, they traded breath and quiet. What if the judge don't see right, she asked finally. Then we appeal to the river, he said, a smile in it. And after that, to tomorrow. She snorted at that, a soft sound that surprised them both, and for 3 full minutes the worry loosened its teeth. At night, wind came clean through willow leaves and made a silver sound. May practiced telling the judge the truth in a voice she could live with later. Eli practiced saying nothing unless it made the truth steadier. Between them, the small house held. Halfway to town the next morning, the trail pinched between shale and fence. 4 men sat a choke point into being. Silas, the deputy, a rope man, a rifleman. Rain smell sharpened like flint on steel. Turn back, the deputy said. His badge looked tired of shining. Eli set the brake. Trail's public, he said. Not today, Silas replied. Judge won't waste on cows and wet nurses. Take the long road or go home. Junie nuzzled at nothing. May set her palm on the baby's head. You told the judge I'd appear, she said to Silas. Judge hears who I bring, he said. Might be I bring the child without the noise. Eli climbed down, slow, rain beginning to prickle. Let the lady pass, he said, setting the words into the earth like posts. The rope flicked. Eli caught it. Burn lit his skin. The rifle lifted. The horse under Silas took a sideways step like it knew more about law than its rider. Eli drove his shoulder into the rope man. Shale bit. Silas reached for a vest pistol. Eli's palm found his jaw. shoved him back into his own saddle horn. A shot cracked. Splinters jumped from the wagon. Junie screamed. The scream lit something in May that did not go out. The deputy froze with the gun half cocked, rain blurring his lashes. Eli used the second like a craftsman, kicked the rifle free. It skittered under the wagon. The ropeman swung. Eli took the hit to ribs and returned one to the belly. Silas groped for the pistol again. May flung the wet diaper pail. It thumped his wrist. The pistol fell like a dumb bird. Rain thickened to a sheet. Eli stumbled. The rope snagged his ankles. He hit dirt hard and slid, grit sawing his wrists. The deputy reached for the rope, to help or tighten. Who could say? May set Junie wrapped in the footwell and stepped down into the fight. The mud took her feet and tried to keep them. She shoved Silas with everything the world had said she had too much of. He went over like a post, finally giving to weather. She seized the rope, palms on fire, and planted. "Let him up," she said, "or I'll pull you under." The ropeman pulled. She pulled back and felt shame, old and heavy, tear loose. Eli rolled, got his knees, surged. The rope went slack. The deputy sat down hard in mud, a man suddenly listening to himself. Eli dragged breath. He found the rifle, broke it, dumped the cartridge to mud, tossed the empty back. "There," he said. "Now you're just men in rain." Silas spit grit. "This isn't finished." "Right," May said. "We're going to the judge." She climbed up, bared her breast without apology. Junie latched, fierce and perfect. Silas watched and mistook the source of power. May looked him in the eye while her child drank. "You don't get to name this," she said. "Or me." They rattled into town, wet as river stones. The courthouse smelled like paper and old argument. The judge wore a broom mustache and looked tired of men like Silas. He listened the way a man lifts weight for someone else for a minute. He asked questions that looked for grain, not paint. Eli told what he'd seen, a mother in heat and dust feeding a baby while men starved for smallness, a trail blocked with a rope and a rifle. May told what she'd lived, the porch, the letter burned, the hush of a child's swallow that made a day worth keeping. The deputy admitted Rain had made a new man of him for a second, and he aimed to keep that man. Silas lied with the stamina of practice, then wilted under his own lack of oxygen. A woman from town, one who had hissed before, shifted on the bench and spoke up unasked. She'd seen May feed by the trough and seen no sin, only a hungry child and a day hot enough to fry morals thin. The judge let the words lay without scolding them back. He stacked papers and touched them like checking for splinters. "The child stays with her mother," he said at last. "Support will be paid. Waylaying ends. Comparing women to cattle in my hearing ends sooner. We finish here." Silas's jaw worked. The deputy studied his boots and saw the life he wanted to walk. Eli breathed once, steady as a beam finally set true. May felt her knees for the first time in months, noticed the floor kindly. They took the long road home because the long road is sometimes the honest one. By the willows, rain had washed town luck from their skin. Eli washed blood at the bench he'd built, quiet as prayer. He hissed once when water found a split in his forearm and apologized to no one for the sound. May watched from the doorway and felt something break and mend in a single breath. "Stay," she said. "Not for supper. Through another dawn and another." Eli dried his arm with a sun-smelling rag. He stood on the step, rain ghosting off the brim of his hat. "I'll stay," he said. "As your man." She laughed, rich and surprised. "As my man, if you'll have me as your wife." He stepped onto the porch and set his brow to hers, careful as ever. "I want to live as your husband," he whispered, words no louder than water under stones. They married under willows a month later. The judge looked pleased to spend a day by water instead of paper. The bench was a pew, the screen a prettier backdrop than any church could order. A neighbor who'd hissed brought a pie and an apology shaped like extra sugar. The deputy sent flour with a note that said, "For the right side of things." Work found them, and they met it. May learned the creek's secret shelves for keeping milk cool. Eli showed her how to notch a beam without splitting the end grain. They caught fish at dusk and let half of them go because it mattered to keep the river fed as well. Some nights they spoke of the ones gone. Most nights they let quiet do that work. Seasons spun. The river went bright with snowmelt and lay down warm. They added 3 porch boards and a rocking chair for night feeds. Eli carved birds until his hands learned small. Junie hung them from rafters, a sky that moved when doors opened. May set stones where the bank held in flood and where it needed help. Her body stayed hers and abundant, a word they didn't need to say, because it lived in how he reached for her and she welcomed him. In winter, the stove breathed on the windows. Eli lifted Junie and taught her to count whirls in wood. In spring, May walked to town with shawl open, baby heavy, chin unafraid. People discovered their mouths busy with other things. The bench silvered, the screen hummed, the river forgot paper and remembered stones. Years later it felt like 3 and also like 1,000. It was evening again. Air tasted like cut hay and warm bread. Junie, long-legged now, chased a chicken in foolish circles. Eli carved a bird no bigger than a thumb. May rocked, heavy with another child, grinning at nothing. She took his hand and set it on her belly. The baby turned like a fish in deep water. Neighbors drifted by the fence and leaned, offering talk about calves and rain. No one mentioned the day by the trough. A boy asked Eli if birds could be taught to fly on strings. Eli said no. The trick was to hang them where wind learned to play. "Listen," she said, and they did. The river talking under dusk, cottonwoods answering, fireflies learning to shine. Eli set the tiny bird in her palm. "For the new one." She closed her fingers over it and over his. Across the yard, Junie fell laughing into grass, full of the nonsense that saves a life in small amounts every day. Eli breathed at her ear. Sufficient, and the word was blessing, not measure. They watched the river drift until the first star burned steady. The bench held, the screen rattled friendly. Somewhere a nightjar called its own name. If being here with them eased your chest from far away, it's because something settled true and wouldn't shake loose. If this story made space where you'd been told to be smaller, come back for more desert loves and quiet braveries. Subscribe, share it with someone who needs a gentle word, and meet us next time beneath these same willows.